One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to One Word.
One word.
One word. Woo!
I am Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Clara.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Chloe.
There was another name in there, wasn't
Whoa.
there?
What?
We
What?
have
Where?
a
Who's
special
that girl?
guest host this time. There's 5 of us. We have Clara. Clara, introduce ourselves. Introduce yourself.
Introduce ourselves.
I'm Clara. I'm friends with these guys.
Yeah, she is.
Hi, Clara.
And that takes a lot,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We're a lot of work.
Right.
I just used to fangirl over Clara because I would see her in shows. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I know her.
She's so talented and amazing.
Who fans over me?
Well,
She speaks the truth. She does. She gives it to you
That's
straight.
what I'm here for.
Oh.
well,
Okay.
today I am introing the episode because this is sadly my last
Is
One Word episode.
not sadly, because in order for it
bittersweetly.
Yeah.
to have happened, you have to
Chocolately.
have gone there and have
Exactly.
to have done it.
I've left a legacy here.
Yes, girl.
Oh.
Because that is the word
That
today.
is
Yeah.
the word.
I didn't know if you saw, but it is.
In case
That's
you
the word.
forgot. Well, one of the most interesting things I think that we talked about was Hamilton and a quote that Jenna shared. Okay, I
That
did not
was,
realize. I'm going to save the quote for the actual episode, but I
Okay.
did not realize that this quote was from the song. And it talks about seeds and plants and gardens. And you know how much I love
You
my
can say
plants.
every word. Just don't put them in order or in the context
No,
of
I'm
the
leaving them
sentence.
guessing. They just have to guess. They gotta guess.
I've got a delicious dinner for you. It's made from chicken and it's fried. I can't wait till you see it.
You'll find out what it is.
You'll find out later.
Oh my gosh. We also talked a little bit about college and college admissions and how that ties into the word legacy, which was super interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my word. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at my own joke. I'm like crying right
That
now.
was good. I enjoyed yours.
Thanks, sorry. Yeah, and there was some really interesting stuff that happened in this episode that we talked about. A donkey makes an appearance.
Yeah, when you were
Several
going on
multiple
with the
times.
dinner thing, I thought you were going to say dinner is donkey.
No, he's your friend. Don't eat him.
Oh my word. I'm not gonna eat the donkey. But he does show up.
He
Ooh,
does.
multiple times.
And also, who shows up is some monkey.
Yeah.
And we get to
Lots
learn
of
how they
animals
Lots
in
of
this
animals
this
episode
time.
today, right?
Yeah.
a little science experiment
Sound
for you.
disgusted.
Not
Animals.
Animals.
Ugh,
What?
I hate animals.
bunnies.
No.
I
PETA's
love
gonna.
bunnies.
Oh, I do not like bunnies.
Why?
They are everywhere
Yeah.
and they destroy my backyard.
I love bunnies.
I do too.
Okay. Fine.
You do not have
And
the Easter
this
spirit.
is why I have no fan people.
Oh man.
Oh, so interesting. You know what I really enjoyed? Clara is dying over there. I really want to know why she's dying.
Oh, so interesting. I'm gonna cross my arms and start talking.
That's a reenactment of what Dominic just did. You all can't
And
see.
you wish at home you could see what just happened, but you cannot. You know what I find interesting? Is this one pulled in a lot of the themes throughout the season.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
And it kind of it takes everything that we talked about throughout the season, puts it together in one package, and Chloe is breaking microphones.
I'm sorry. I was trying to adjust it covertly. I got it.
You do not have it. Just hold it.
She didn't
Just
have
hold
Okay,
it.
I'm holding it.
No talking for the rest of this one.
Okay,
How about?
sorry.
But the way it ties together all of the words that we had in our season 1, and it really shines a light on the importance of those words in relation to our legacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really enjoyed the most
Yeah.
from this episode. And
You know what I just realized?
no,
Is
tell
this
me.
our 10th episode?
This is 10 episodes a
Wow.
season.
I
This
love
is
even
episode
numbers.
10.
It's a good end to the
Episode
season.
10.
It is.
It's almost like our 100th episode.
But it's-
Exactly. Not a zero. Yeah,
So it's very exciting.
yeah. We should do something really special on our 100th episode.
Oh my god!
In 10 years, you will both be dead.
Whoa, Clara!
And she knows for certain.
I will make sure.
Can I'd also like to say Clara has an outburst
At the very end.
at the end of the episode, and it goes to a very dark place you did not know it was going to go.
But you're going to love it.
But it gives you some insight into Clara.
Yes.
There. I said it. I said it. It's in the world. It cannot be retracted now.
Yes. Well,
Unless my legacy can be retracted.
We'll find out in the episode.
ooh, well, I guess on that note, we don't need to keep you guys waiting anymore. So I have just one word for you. Legacy.
The word legacy first appeared in English in about the late 14th century, and it derives from the Latin legatus, meaning ambassador, like, or somebody who received like a will. And over time, it kind of shifted to like what you were left in a will, so like an inheritance.
Yeah,
so for a
I
long
like
time, a legacy, like inheritance.
Money?
I disagree. I disagree.
You said that so nicely.
So a legacy for a long
Well,
time
I'm
meant
nice. I'm kind.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're kind. You just disagree.
I kindly
Politely
disagree
disagree.
that is what we should think of when we think of legacy.
well, lucky for you,
Oh, I am lucky.
yeah.
and kind.
As computers and the internet started to be more in use, it kind of shifted to how we know it as today, as like what you leave behind after your life. There's also a
You
word.
mentioned computer, though. Can I just say something?
Yes,
it
sure.
also has a lot to do with computers.
It does.
Yeah,
Legacy is something that is, when you're talking about technology, it's something that's outdated or otherwise undesirable from a previous system.
Oh,
You know
undesirable.
that? Like a legacy system in technology.
Interesting.
I find that really interesting how you get these two different polar opposite. One is like legacy. Here's your money and your new home and
And
that's
your
like
donkey.
and your donkey.
It comes with the house.
most times when you're having a real estate exchange, people just throw in an extra donkey to seal the deal.
They're running off down the road. Wait, it's your donkey now.
I don't want that
Down to
thing.
the house.
That's stubborn ass.
Legacy.
He's a friend.
Gosh, Chloe.
And scene there. Folks. So you get these polar opposites, though. So you've got those things which are considered great, amazing things in our society, right? And then you've got it in the world of technologies where it's talking about undesirable things or old or used
That is
up,
interesting.
right?
It's
Isn't
like
that
they're
interesting?
evil twins or something.
They're
or
on the
opposite
opposite of
Like
the ends of the
Kermit
spectrum.
and Constantine.
Like Kermit and
I love the Muppets.
You put a Muppet episode in
do.
every episode.
I
Yeah,
have to.
in
I love
tradition,
it.
you
It-
loved the Muppets too.
I have always loved the Muppets.
I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I interrupted you. Keep going.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention that there's another sort of related word that also comes from like Greek, Roman, that sort of Latin root situation. And
Oh, they're all the same.
yeah, whatever. And that is legate, which is a member of the clergy, especially like a cardinal, and it kind of just like a member of the church, and it also could mean a governor of like an ancient Roman province.
Yeah, so
Which is
it was
interesting.
like a person
Yeah.
that was. Yeah, you want to say something, Jenna? You-
No, well,
I can see it in
no.
your eyes.
So the person who was the, what is it, legate?
Legate.
Legate. It doesn't flow off the tongue.
No,
very well,
not really.
Legate.
especially the way it's spelled.
Right. It looks like legate.
It does.
Legate. Open legate.
Open legate.
Sorry. So the person who was the legate would, what were they? I'm sorry. Can you tell me what was
It was like a member of the church or the clergy, or it would be a governor of a Roman province.
Like an envoy.
Yeah.
type of
So it's
person.
like they had power and they were going to go speak.
They had authority
They had
to
authority.
do so. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Which is interesting because you often hear about like the legacy of powerful people.
Yeah.
So these legates probably had pretty like, notable legacies.
Yeah.
And, well, wait a minute. So
Yeah.
legate now, though, to kind of go along with that can also mean somebody who is specifically representing the Pope. I just looked this up because I said
Right.
legate, because I was like, legate, what is this? Which is intriguing to me because it's like, okay, I don't know. It's about that like if somebody just came and was like, here's what I have to say, and you're like, whatever. But then if you're the legate and you're like, oh, well, it's the legate, and they say the same thing, now you're gonna like
Well, they
trust
are
what they're saying.
delivering
Right.
the legacy or the thing
Right.
to pass to the people.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
And the leg part of legacy or legate, right?
Carries them.
It's to
on the leg.
collect or gather, and it has derivatives that mean to speak. So it's kind of a notion of gathering or picking your words. So the legate picks its words to then bestow upon the people to pass down the legacy or the information or the fill in the blank of what the thing is, right? But I found some interesting. There's David Lansky. He has an article, and in it he talks about how if we spent our attention less on the object, so the money, the house that you inherit, any of that,
The goat.
and more on the people whose mission it is to deliver the object, it becomes more about that humanity and less about physical objects, which, of course, as we all know from our episode a couple months ago, we're not happy without those objects because marketing people have told us to be, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So we
Consumerism.
Right. So we place an importance in getting those objects as the legacy as opposed to the human element of the legacy. That's why I don't like that other version of the
You never
definition.
liked the first version.
Dominic never likes the first definition.
I'm hard to please, people. So there's Peter Straupel also says,
That's a nice name.
isn't that is a nice name.
Peter
Straupel.
Straupel.
We should write him and tell him, good job picking your name. Even though you didn't,
And
that's
tell
a
your
legacy
mama
your
too.
parents
You
gave to
can
you.
change your name.
You can, it's true, yeah.
Maybe he did.
But legacy is not leaving something for people, it's leaving something in people,
Oh.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
not like physically.
no,
Cut you
no,
open,
like-
put the money inside, and then sew you back up.
no, it's about how you make people feel or how you are as a person that lifts them up and brings them to a different, place. So
It's like, okay, ready? Okay, envision with me.
Yes.
There's
I
a
am
person
closing
walking
my
down the road,
eyes.
and they're like, I want to instill kindness in people. And then they take their hands and they beam them towards people, and light comes out. It's like, kindness. And then it hits the person, and they're like, I've
they
been
glow,
instilled with
they then
kindness.
glow and radiate.
And they
great
glow and
visual.
radiate.
If we could do that,
That happens every day.
Yeah.
but would that be used in the opposite way too? Like, could evil people use it in the very opposite way?
Okay.
Everything
Well,
you do, I think, has a legacy, whether good or bad.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Is it though? Would it still? Well, yeah, I guess it would be. I
I mean,
always
this
think
is-
of legacy as a positive thing,
It definitely
but I
has
guess
a positive
it can
connotation, but like,
also have a negative legacy.
Well,
Yeah.
technically, if it's something that's left behind or something, right? What was that definition?
let me find it.
Yeah, look that back up. But if we're leaving something behind for other people,
oh,
It's described
Inherited.
as property left in a will.
that's
yeah.
proper. Okay, so that's that one. What's the other one?
something transmitted or received from an ancestor or predecessor or from the past.
Right. Yep.
And-
Something handed down from an ancestor or predecessor.
Well,
from
and
the
one
past.
of the, like when you think about the phrase, the war left a legacy of pain and suffering, that actually,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense to me because, yeah.
Because, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Legacy can be good or bad, and I do think many people think of it as positive. Let's talk about some legacies then. Do we know who Carnegie is, or some people call him Carnegie or Carnegie? I've heard two
He's
things.
Scottish.
The
So.
people in New York City, by the way, they typically call it Carnegie.
Carnegie.
Yeah,
I just call him Car.
Vroom,
They're
vroom.
So
I call him Andy. We're on first name basis.
he was really his fortune was made by massive worker exploitation.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that great? Very anti-union.
Oh.
And here's the interesting part, though. Later in life, he felt guilty about what a horrible person he had been, and he started massively donating money to charitable causes.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
But it's interesting, though, that we don't know that about him because he has a legacy of being this, like, titan of industry.
You got Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Mellon,
Yeah.
Carnegie Institute, libraries, concert halls, all over.
I feel like the main thing we learned about him, other than like the like monopoly thing, was about like how much like he gave back. He thought it was so important for like the wealthy people to give back.
Is that,
Yeah.
well, let me ask this. Did he really think that way?
Yeah.
Or was he just haunted at the end of his life?
Oh.
He's like, I'm not going to need all this money for very much longer. Might as well give it away so maybe people like me now or will think of me in a better light.
That's interesting because
Right?
it could be that. It could be like maybe he did have maybe he was convicted, of like in a positive way of like, oh man, I've been a crappy person. And
Right.
I need to not be a crappy person.
Yeah.
Or was he being a little bit more, I don't know if selfish is the right word for it, but like, well, can't keep it.
Well, so then,
Can't take it with you.
so can legacies change?
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Can you
I think so.
rectify a legacy?
I mean, yes, I think that there's cases where it can be rectified, but I feel like in this specific one, like, I mean, the bad things that he did don't just disappear. That's also something that is brought down with generations. And
Yeah.
yes, he donated money to charity, but I guess I don't know too much about the man. But you said that he felt guilty, and that to me, when you first read it, was like, oh, he feels bad. It wasn't like I'm doing this because I want to. It's I'm doing this because I have to, almost, if that makes sense. Like if he is at the end of his life.
So let me ask it. Had that, let's just rewind time and then fast forward again, right?
Okay.
And let's just say that he hadn't gone and started, feeling bad about it and then massively donating. What do we think people would have thought of him then? And all the things he worked for, Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Mellon, all these different places and all this different stuff, would it have just crumbled if it came to light what he had done without going back and doing anything positive?
That's a really good point because especially as you think about the last couple of years and even just with different statues that are being taken down around the
that's what I was
country,
thinking.
right? And it's like, okay, for so long, these people were praised for the good that they did. But as people, and it's not like people didn't know the other things that occurred. It's not like they didn't know about, different people had slaves or things like that.
Yeah.
But it's that we just kind of took it as, well, that was part of our world. So, we just kind of go with it. But then as people, it's almost like in the past so many years, people are looking back on things of like, no, that's not okay. And we're not going to be okay with this.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do about it. So I think you're right. Like if Carnegie had not, then maybe his story would have been a little bit different of how we see him now.
So there's another guy. His name is Charles R. Kahn.
Charles R. Kahn.
Charles R. Period.
Oh, okay.
Kahn.
Okay.
I got to cite my
Kahn.
source appropriately.
Mr. Academy.
Yeah, right. So he has an article. It's called Think About Historical Legacies. And in it, he poses a process by which to have legacy investigations, which are not cosmetic reactions to pressure, but thoughtful community solutions seen in the context of promoting restorative justice, improving understanding, and building relationships between different identity groups. And it's really interesting because within this, there's a whole kind of flow chart, as it would be, where you ask this question and does it do this? If so, go this way. If it does this other thing, go this way, to kind of give you a answer on how you would look at that legacy investigation. So here are some of the potential remedies that could be there for these. One is to contextualize a placard which leaves the artifact in place, but tells the story of the actor's role in offensive acts. So it leaves it in place, but kind of educates at the same time. Balancing is another range of potential remedies, which is brings into the physical or digital space the voices, images of others, including those wronged. It's a balancing restorative justice action. Relocation, which could move an artifact, but to a place where it can be studied. Reshaping or editing. So the original monument is left in place, but it's altered in a way to highlight offensive aspects. Destroying or removing. Renaming. That's kind of in the instance of like a street being named after a person and you don't feel it should be, right? Moral balancing. So applying a moral calculus to determine the principal legacy of the future. And then the final range of potential remedies is reparations and or restorative justice. So it's just really interesting. And he lays out in this article, it's a very interesting article if you ever want more information, but it lays out, for example, the first one is, does the artifact honor the contested actor or simply chronicle? If it chronicles it, you would go over one way. If it honors it, keep going down the line to see where you get over to that range of potential remedies. That kind of goes a little bit back to the episode we had on ostracizing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how we discussed a little bit of that and what cancel culture was doing, right?
Yeah, right. And we're like, I don't know, it's just so interesting because we're canceling people who aren't here anymore. Right?
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. We're like, you know what? You had a legacy and not anymore.
So
we're changing how your legacy looks.
Is legacy ever finished then? That's something while I was researching that, like, is your legacy finished?
Can a legacy die?
I don't think so, but I think that it can be altered and changed in a way because we touched on this a little bit earlier. But when I was researching negative legacies, like examples, there was an article that came up on parenting, and it says the example that it says is, you may have been raised by parents who were very strict in their discipline. They were quick to punish, did not allow you to explain your point of view, and used humiliation as a discipline tool. As an adult, you may decide that you want to reverse that legacy. Instead of using discipline that shames your children, you choose methods that maintain their self-esteem and your relationship with them. So it continues, especially with families too, because it is something that is like left for the next generation. I mean,
so does that restore your parents' legacy, or does that set your legacy into place?
I think it's a little bit of
kind of merges the legacies into
I don't
one
think
familial legacy.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was just about to say, are we talking about what the family is then passing down from generation to generation?
Like a tradition.
You can alter it like a tradition. Yeah,
So
traditions.
many callbacks.
Yeah, traditions are very much a part of the legacy that we pass on to people, especially if we are talking about a legacy which leaves something in people and not for them. Those traditions are forever ingrained in who you are.
Actually,
That's my legacy beam.
nice.
I love the sound effect with
Thank
that
you.
too.
I read about an experiment similarly to that. It's about like intergenerational decisions and tradition, and it's called the 5 monkey experiment.
Did they jump on a bed?
No, sadly they did not.
Falls off.
And
Bumps his head.
That's right.
So the experiment was that 5 monkeys were placed inside of in a cage, and there was a ladder that was set in the middle of it, and on top of the ladder was a pile of bananas. So when the monkeys would try and climb up the ladder, the scientists would spray them with cold water, which they obviously do not like. So eventually they learned that
I'm glad you said, obviously, they do not like, because I'm going to be honest with you. I would not have known monkeys don't like cold water.
Listen, I'm not speaking for all monkeys out there.
These guys,
but these monkeys in this experiment did not like cold water.
Let's take for granted and think people know that monkeys don't like being sprayed.
Okay. Well, in case you didn't know, these monkeys did not like cold water.
Love bananas, hate cold water.
Exactly.
That's what you need to know going in.
Oh, and these two worlds are colliding.
Eventually, the monkeys learned that they should not climb the ladder despite the bananas being at the top because they are going to be placed in an uncomfortable position. So as the experiment continues. They remove one of the original monkeys and they put a new monkey in the group. And that monkey, obviously the first thing it tries to do is climb the ladder to get the bananas. And the scientists don't spray this monkey because the other monkeys quickly pull the new monkey down and like beat up the monkeys to try.
Like they help him and figure out.
No,
They beat him up.
They beat him up to try and like teach him
Like, you
not to
can't
climb
do
the ladder.
this.
Yeah, so the experiment continues until the entire group of monkeys are new monkeys. So none of them actually experience the original getting sprayed with cold water. So
But this legacy of the spraying of
That's
cold water
crazy.
got ingrained into them as, can I say, as a society,
yep.
right?
Yeah.
Society.
So it could be, or the question that can, sorry, the answer to the question of like, why do we not climb the ladder is, I don't know, that's just how it's always been done.
75% of Americans vote just how their parents voted because that's all.
Really?
Because that's how they were raised and that's all they've ever known. So they just inherit
Okay,
their politics.
I'm sorry. So now I'm going to go back to the honesty episode when we were talking about how we need to investigate things for ourselves.
And
Don't
think for
just
ourselves.
take that information and be like, well, this is
Yep.
this. No, you need to go and research it and dive into it and see what you think about it or how it relates to the world today, now, here, right?
I feel like that's the most important part now and here because, I mean, things change always and we have to be okay adapting to that. Because as humans, we like naturally find patterns and then we stick to that. And I mean, sometimes it's good to break those patterns because just because we have a pattern and we feel safe in that pattern does not mean it's healthy.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
True. I do think it's hard sometimes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because, we were just talking about families and how, you learn like the legacy of your family and like things kind of get passed down the line. And I think sometimes you kind of, like some people fall into this thing of like, I've always been told what to do. And so not having their own voice, not being able to kind of speak or say their own thing, and then trying to figure out and find their own voice. And I think that's one thing where, I don't know, I think now it's gotten a little bit better where parents kind of work with their children on, well, what, like, what do you like? What do you want? What this. But I think sometimes there was that it just kind of like ingrained into your children, like you listen to what I want to do, you do what I want to do. And then suddenly people are following in those footsteps of what their parents were. But you're right. Like, we got to think for ourselves, but sometimes it's hard to get past that.
Yeah.
My dad is a junior. Everything that he likes is just stuff that his dad liked. He loves baseball. He loves race cars. He like went to the same college as his stepdad. Like his whole like everything that he chose to do, it seems like it just came from like what his father liked. And I talking about it, I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then I'm thinking about what I want to do with my life, and it sounds a lot like what my mom did.
Yeah, you work.
Yeah.
And
So-
also you work at the Cougar Stadium.
Well, that's just nepotism. I just needed money.
So you brought up a very interesting point because there's another element to this word, legacy, which is very much ingrained into our collegiate systems, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
There is legacy systems where you can, where if a parent went to a school, you
Yeah.
are considered a legacy. And, depending upon the school or whatnot, you can
Like get into a
you
sorority.
can get in, or you can get into
or-
the school.
Yeah.
My mom went to BC, Boston College, and so did her brother, and my cousin, her brother's daughter, is like, yeah, like 70% of people there like had their parents also go there.
So,
Like so many people are like,
is that
So
fair?
interesting.
Are people getting into places because, so bear with me for a second, because family has gotten into places and therefore they get into places, and because knowledge and money sometimes can go hand in hand, right? So if generations and generations ago you get into an institution and then the legacy allows further people to get in, but maybe not others, and there's only a certain number of spaces for people to get in, is that justifiable in terms of getting ourselves to an equitable place for the disbursement of information and education and that kind of thing, right? I don't know. I'm just posing that question.
Yeah, I think it's unfair, and I do know that schools, some schools, they raise your acceptance rate if your parents went there. But I kind of think that's almost unfair because, I mean, however smart your parents were doesn't define however smart you are, and it also definitely doesn't define your interests. Like, both my parents went to Purdue Northwest for engineering, and for me, because I'm graduating and I'm going to college, I want to do something creative and something in the arts. And like, we visited the campus and it is beautiful, but it's like, I don't know, I don't want to go there. But it's unfair to the people who do want to go there that my acceptance rate is heightened just because my parents went there, you know?
Right.
So, and I cannot find the piece of data that I found regarding these legacy schools, but there is actually data that shows, so with these legacy enrollments and whatnot, it's the students are actually eligible to get in at an equal rate to others, but they are just then chosen because of the legacy status. So it is slightly unfair, but does that then also just go to the element of, we have a financial system where these people are educated unequitably across our systems, and they would be because their parents come from a place and they received an inheritance perhaps, and that's passed down, and we continue to educate our system, because ourselves and our families at a certain level, because that is our legacy in our family, versus different groups of people who might not have been given those same financial opportunities, so they never got to a certain level and whatnot. Does that make sense?
That's a big one, money, especially like with our word, even revolving around money. But I feel like that sets a lot of people up for success all over.
I think also, I'm not like negating the validity of this issue, but also I think there's sometimes big pressure from parents to have their children go to the same schools as them. So that, I don't think that necessarily justifies people getting in easier, but it does explain like why so many people go to so many schools that their parents went to, because like we were talking about, it just is ingrained into them that like that's what they are going to do with their lives.
And for the college, like they give acceptance to people they think will accept them back. Right. And I think that like kids whose parents have gone to those schools would be more likely to try and actually go to those schools, which makes it look better for the college. Like more people are actually accepting them.
So when I was little and I would watch, like different movies or shows, and they talked about like, there were students who were legacies and all that stuff. I didn't think that was a real thing.
Yeah.
So then when I got older and people were like, oh, well, I went here. I was like, oh, what?
You do exist.
Yeah. It was so weird to me. Like that concept was just not like in my scope. So I was the first in my immediate family to graduate from college. My mom had gone to college but didn't end up finishing. My dad did not go to college. So like it wasn't even necessarily this is something you're going to do type thing. Like that wasn't really, I don't know. I guess I feel like I'm using the word legacy a little bit generically today, but like that wasn't necessarily anything that we thought about as like legacy for us.
Right. Yeah.
It was more like do well for yourself, do better for yourself kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
My mom was born in Alabama and then they moved to Compton, California. My dad was raised in the projects in Chicago. So they both kind of came from, like backgrounds that were not a lot of people's backgrounds.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially like, with the people that I went to college with. So like when I went to college, there was like suddenly all this pressure of like, oh my gosh, like I need to continue this on. It was almost like I need to create something more because we're like bettering ourselves. But then, okay, wait. Okay. This props to my father. So my dad, he did not go to college. He was in the Army. when he was in the Army, he was a command sergeant major in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was in sergeant major school, he got his associate's degree. This was like, he was probably like in his 50s or 60s. Then after he retired, he went back and got his bachelor's. Then he went back and got a double master's.
Wow.
Right? And like, I just look at this man and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm so proud of you and what you've done. And like, he's such an inspiration to me, where it's like that legacy kind of like, I don't know, where it's like, I don't have children, but in my head, I'm like, I'm going to tell my children, like, your grandfather did this. Like, let's, like, look at what you can achieve because your grandfather did this when he was in his 60s. Type thing.
So you just described something very interesting. The legacy. So a legacy. So here's another quote from Eric Burden. And
he has an unfortunate last name. I'm sorry, Eric.
That is the legacy his family gave him. His name.
He burdened him with that last name.
Hey, that was good.
I want my legacy to exist now, currently, not after I'm gone. It seems like what you're saying there is a legacy that your father is passing onward to you. So I think we typically think about legacy in terms of like, you're gone, you either like leave a job and you leave a legacy with that institution, or you pass away and you leave a legacy behind of some. Do you have to like, can you have a legacy in the here and now with where you are? Or does legacy have to exist for what you've done and you've left and you're gone?
That's a really good question.
I think I traditionally think of it as like the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
if
that's how
you're-
most people
I
do
think if
it.
you're still alive, it feels more like your reputation. Like it's
Yeah.
Oh
something.
yeah, Taylor Swift.
Like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, but it's like you think of, if you're going to leave a legacy, then you have to leave.
Yeah.
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 And that's kind of what that feels like.
Sad.
I know.
But is
I'm
it? Let me
sorry.
ask this: is it sad
It's
or is it
bittersweet.
motivating for you to push yourself for those great things? Does that make sense?
I think it's both. I think it's sad and motivating. And I think, like Chloe just said, bittersweet. I think it's totally a bittersweet thing because you desire for something more. You desire for these things that you've done to continue on, whether that's with you or somebody else. And hopefully, like, that will get picked up and move on. But there's this sense of, if you leave it, whether that's willingly or like, people who like died or, or something like that, There's nothing
Whatever
something
that
like
happened
it.
to them.
All right. Then it's like, okay, it has to, I mean, that person doesn't even know, like how many people out there have this huge legacy and they have no clue, because this was after their time of what they inspired and
This keeps making me think of Hamilton. Because I just rewatched it like the other week, and his whole thing was like he didn't have a very good legacy until someone wrote a musical about him like 200 years after his life, and that's a legacy he's never going to know that he had, even though he was constantly concerned with legacy in his life.
Yeah, but more people know about it now in a better light. But yeah, and there's that one line in the one song, "Legacy." What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden no one gets to see. And like that.
It's like doing it when people aren't necessarily looking.
Right.
Or expecting it.
And wait. And the line before that, shout out to Hamilton, is like something about like, is this bullet my legacy? So it is. It's like, okay, like his life could have drastically been seen more as like, this person died in a duel, the end. Right? Versus look at all the things that continued on because of Alexander Hamilton. He made some poor choices, but look at the stuff that kind of came from it too.
He made some important choices too.
What you just quoted,
Yeah.
that kind of goes to what legacy, what it takes to leave a legacy. Specifically, that quote that you just mentioned about it's planting a seeds in a garden you will never see. So that kind of talks about how creating a legacy takes faith. because you don't know how it will turn out. You're
Yeah.
planting a seeds in a garden, you don't know. Did you know there's certain things that to leave a legacy you have to have? Faith?
Trust in pixie dust.
And I was just about to say.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad you got
You're
it
like,
in
I
there.
gotta get that out before the
It's
time
been
runs
great.
out.
Now, would it surprise you if I were to say it is not pixie dust? Would that
Well,
surprise
you do need pixie dust. Also,
Maybe that is in
Just a
some
little
other
bit.
article. Faith,
I'm gonna write an article. and say that.
drive, and consistency. Consistently doing that, consistently being that, right? If you're talking about the financial aspect of it, right? Consistently saving your money, consistently being honest, consistently being strong and being, right? That consistency,
honest.
drive, and faith.
Consistency is so difficult
Oh my
sometimes,
gosh.
though.
Yeah.
Like
What makes it difficult in the terms of legacy? Like what are some obstacles to that?
Everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I am the most consistent at being inconsistent.
Exactly. I feel like
Poetic.
personally, I find my patterns that I feel comfortable in,
Yeah.
and then, like I said earlier, sometimes when you feel safe, it doesn't mean it's healthy.
Right.
And I will personally find things that I feel safe in and I feel comfortable in, but then I'm able to identify that, okay, maybe this isn't healthy. But because it's just the routine and it's natural to do, like just do it every day.
I would go as far too as to say that the problem that makes consistency hard, and this is where we abandon ourselves sometimes, is, in leaving that legacy that we want to instill in people, right, in our world. I think we're such a negative world a lot of times, spread with pressure for negative things and all these things. And it makes us try to avoid the good sometimes, to take that bypass because it might be more popular to go this route as opposed to this one, which are the qualities we want to leave behind and instill in people.
Yeah, something I was going to say earlier when we were talking about like the planting seeds in a garden that you'll never see is, like, I know me, like, personally, sometimes I get concerned about if I'm going to leave a positive footprint wherever I go. And sometimes that's more consuming than just, like, existing and being. And I really liked that quote that you shared because, sometimes you just have to live and then your legacy will follow. I don't think it's good to focus so hard on what you're going to leave behind instead of just living in the moment.
So Brandon Lee says that immortality is to live your life doing good things and leaving your mark behind. So that's immortality. Right, but if it is, then you're not really gone because what you've done lives on in other people in some way.
Yeah, I think it's most important to focus on that definition instead of, money. Because as we established in the beginning.
So you agree with me? That look at
Yeah, I guess. I guess I agree with you. No, I mean, it's just so much more impactful in the end when, you lose someone per se and you bring up memories to them. Maybe they left you, I don't know, $6 trillion.
That's a lot.
But you remember the time where you guys shared a cookie at the park. Like, that's so much more just important than any of the worldly things. And I think that's the most important part of legacy and what you leave behind is living in the moment and being true and being good and being real, and know that hopefully that has a positive impact on someone that you may not ever meet. So I think that's the most important thing about this word specifically.
Yeah. I feel like going back to the consistency thing, I feel like it's true most of the time, but a lot of the times, like, one bad thing could ruin your whole legacy. Even if you were, like, consistently pretty nice, you do, like, one horrible thing, that ruins your entire legacy. Everyone just thinks, oh, that's the guy that, like, shot his wife.
Oh my gosh.
And you never shot your wife
It ruined
before
your
that.
legacy.
He never shot his wife before that, but he does it one time, and that's his thing.
I was not expecting I was thinking like, oh, you know, he like was really mean to like this group, you
No,
know,
he
like he
shot
had a
his wife.
bad day. He
Oh,
shot his wife.
I mean, he still had a
and
bad
now
day.
it has ruined his legacy. Oh my gosh,
Um,
that killed me.
True. I there is, you know, one big thing could ruin your entire legacy. It is true.
Or even like a small thing like shooting your wife.
Well, despite the shooting your wife thing, I think that it is really important to focus on, you know, paying attention to how you treat other people. Like the quote that we shared earlier, not leaving something behind for people, but leaving something in people. Like the strength that we talked about, leaving strength for your kids and your friends and your family, and not ostracizing people. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And like tradition, things that are passed down from generation to generation, it all counts towards your legacy. And I think it's really important, especially for the future of the world, to focus on the positive and focus on who you are and the good things that you do, rather than the worldly possessions like money and houses and donkeys, and the list can go on.
That's great. Well, I am Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Clara.
I am Zoe.
And I am Chloe.
And Clara, it was delightful to have you with
Thank you
us.
for joining
Thank
us.
you for being
Thanks,
a
guys.
special guest host with us today. And we would like to say goodbye to Zoe. This will be her last episode with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're great.
But this has been the closing of the season 1 of One Word.
One
Oh,
word.
yes, there we go. Oh, it's loveliness in the ear.
Oh my gosh, that was the best that we've done. I feel like.
Well,
Did you
it's
hear
the
that
finale.
harmony?
It's the season finale.
Mic
Although
drop.
I will
What?
say, looking back to episode 1, it really had to just go up from that one,
Okay,
right?
well, no. Okay, everybody just calm down.
All right, we'll calm it down. Thank you for joining us this season. We will see you again in a few short months for season 2.
One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.